Assalamualaikum and Selamat Hari Raya to everyone, to every Muslim who's watching. And tonight we have a special topic, which is what does it mean to follow the child? And with me tonight, I have invited Madam Nusaibah, a dedicated certified Montessori teacher and also a trainer. And she have experienced close to 20 years with Montessori children, with massive knowledge in the philosophy, Maria Montessori philosophy, for both early childhood and elementary. So she is specialized in children in the age of 3 to 6 and also 6 to 12, which is the elementary children. She is also a former head teacher in Alamiah School in London, UK. So you're very lucky.
Researched me very well.
I stalk you.
Oh my God.
Okay, so just so everybody know, that we are very lucky to have her tonight, and the knowledge that she's about to share will save you a lot of time and a lot of books. You get to skip a lot of books to read because you're going to share with us in a summary. All right. I hope you guys are as excited as I am tonight. And so, what should we talk about first? Should I lay down question, or you want to explain first? What does it really mean to follow the child in Montessori?
So I think that that phrase, follow the child, is definitely something people will come across if they are learning about Montessori or they're interested in Montessori. It's definitely something that you'll come across. And it's really easy to misunderstand that phrase because it kind of means, you know, just follow the child. And some people will hear that and then they will let the child do whatever he wants to do or she wants to do, right? But everything in the Montessori method is balanced. You know, this is one thing that I love about the Montessori method is everything is balanced. So we follow the child, but it's within that balance of, you know, creating that healthy environment and supporting the healthy development of the human being. So we don't obviously follow the child if there's, you know, we don't let the child fall off a cliff, you know. You know, we wouldn't follow them to that extent. It's always with that balance of ensuring that we're following them in what is healthy and supportive in their development and allowing them to grow to their full potential and to be the best version of themselves. So if you look back at most likely the education system that you attended and maybe even the parenting that, you know, we experienced as children, in most cases it's a curriculum or an idea or a theory or a philosophy which is created by somebody, put together by somebody, and then imposed on the child, right? There are lots of educational theories that are like that. There are lots of schools that are, you know, the mainstream schools are like that. You have this you know, group of people or individual person who put together a curriculum or a syllabus or a set of milestones that they believe the child should go through in their development, right? So that is starting with the adult and then being imposed on the child, okay? So it's something outward that we create outward and then we put it on the child and we try to guide the child to sorry, I'm just, there you go. I couldn't see. We try to guide the child to fulfill that criteria or tick those boxes. Actually, today I shared something on my Instagram, a little reel with my actor, my wonderful Sophia, who acts for me. So, of, you know, the development, it's not a series of tick boxes. You know, we're not trying to get the child to complete a curriculum or to complete milestones or complete some criteria. That's not what development is about. What Montessori discovered through her scientific observations of children all over the world and her dedication to the child for many, many years, what she discovered is that development is inward out. Yeah, it's not something outward that we impose on the child, but it's something that is naturally taking place within every single human being. It's a natural process. Every single child is created predispositioned to learn.
All right. So what you're saying is, for example, if I go to my school when in my days, say we have this English, math, science, and all these subjects. All right. In science,
Have
we
a little
hello,
companion
Mocha
who's
baby.
meowing. He's meowing at me. Like, why are you not picking me up? So,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, say in science subject in school, in my school previously, I had to complete, for example, I had to complete these check boxes, experiment, lab research, and blah 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 within this time frame. So this is what you said, the outer ones that the outer, what do you call that, subject that being implied in on children, that is not supposed, not what Montessori would do, isn't it?
Well, it comes from the idea that we have to make children learn. It comes from the idea that we have to, unless we force them, or unless we create the structure, or unless we create these schools, then children will learn. If we don't do that, they will not learn. Like most people believe that when their child is at home and they don't have school on the weekend, they believe their child is not learning anything, right? Right.
True,
most people have that
true.
idea that learning takes place in school.
Yes.
But actually, learning is happening all the time.
All the time.
From the moment the child wakes up to the moment they sleep, they are learning something. In fact, in their sleep, they are assimilating all that information that they've taken in. So they're also learning in their sleep. The human being is predispositioned to learn. You know, we are created with all of the mechanisms that are necessary to aid us to reach our full potential. So somewhere along the line, I don't know where, but somewhere along the line, in the history of the human being, we have lost trust that the child is going to learn. We have lost trust that this child wants to learn somewhere along the line. And when we lose that trust, we begin to take the power to try and make the child learn something, or try to fill the child with knowledge, or try to, this idea that if you don't drill your child to do all these reading activities,
they're not learning.
They're not going to learn to read. I mean, that hardly happens anymore. You hardly have children, especially in like developed countries, or you hardly have children who can't read unless they've been through a school system that has completely destroyed them, and hence they can't read.
True.
But the child, all children want to learn. All children want to learn. All children want to develop. All children want to become the best version of themselves. That's how.
Yeah.
So
are you looking at the kitty?
It's the kitten.
It's the kitten.
Sorry.
It's okay. I understand.
I thought he was locked up, but he suddenly appeared, so he's gone now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just like to ask. So, what do Montessori do differently compared to public school?
We believe that this child is going to learn. We trust the child. We follow the child because we trust the child. We follow the child because we trust the laws of nature that are guiding this human being to develop. We know that this child is driven from within. They have their home, they have the absorbent mind, the sensitive periods, they have all of these gifts that are given to them, and this child is going to learn and develop, and they will reach their full potential if they are in a right environment that supports them.
All right. With the right environment. With that word said, we us mom at home could not. Are you saying that we cannot follow the child if we don't have the proper equipment at home, which is the proper environment?
The environment is nothing. It's not the equipment. It's not about having Montessori materials at home.
All right.
That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the environment that allows the child to complete the goals or the tasks of each stage of their life. So let's say, for
Ah.
example, the child between the ages of 0 to 6,
Mm-hmm.
they are creating language, right? So they
Yes.
need to have a language-rich environment.
Ah.
It doesn't mean buy the sandpaper letters, buy the movable
Yeah.
alphabet. It doesn't mean have all these little objects. It doesn't mean that. It means that we create a language-rich environment. We read books to our children. From birth, we have conversations with our newborn from birth, right? We have conversations with them using proper language, using rich vocabulary. We're constantly discussing with them and talking with them. We're describing what we're doing with them all the time, right? When we speak to each other, when adults speak to each other, they also use rich and expressive and beautiful language and vocabulary so that the child can take that in, right? You can give your child a rich language environment without buying anything.
Without
But
buying anything.
Yeah, but I do recommend you buy books.
Okay. That
Everyone
one is
should buy
exception.
books.
Exception
Everyone
for
should buy.
books.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
and if you don't have the budget to buy books, you can still tell loads of stories without books.
Or go to the library and borrow some.
If you can't go to a library, you can tell loads of oral stories. Nowadays, we are so reliant sometimes on books that we don't tell oral stories. We don't make up stories. And because we are not making stories and talking about our life and talking about our experiences, we don't do that with the children.
Childhood.
They don't grow up to do that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Good reminder there.
So even if you don't have a printer, even if you don't have a librarian, even if you don't have budget to buy lots of books, tell your children stories. Don't you remember your parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or whoever it was? Don't you remember them telling you stories?
Yeah.
Wasn't
out of the
that
blue.
Yeah.
Out of thin air.
Yeah, so that child between 0 to 6, they're creating their language. So you can create an environment that supports them to develop their language by giving a language-rich environment. That child between 0 to 6 is creating their movement. They're developing their movement. They're learning to sit, they're learning to walk, they're learning to hold things, they're learning to developing their fine motor skills. You don't need to buy materials, Montessori materials for that. There's so much in your day-to-day life that you can offer the child that is going to help them, is going to, aid them in developing those movement skills that are necessary without buying anything, without setting up a Montessori shelf, and without putting practical life activities. In fact, it's more beautiful for the child. I mean, how many people on this live right now have set up a Montessori shelf and they put things like apple cutting and banana cutting and whisking or whatever it may be on a shelf, and their child doesn't touch it? But
I heard that, yes.
But maybe if you are involving your child in the morning in making breakfast, and they are able to cut the banana for the waffle that you're going to eat as a family, or they're going to be able to whisk the eggs that you're going to be cooking for the family. If you involve them in the real work,
real routine,
then they're so happy and engaged. And not only is the child happy and engaged, and not only are they practicing those physical activities that develop their fine motor skills and their concentration and their coordination, all that, but they also feel a sense of purpose and a sense of contribution because they've done something real meaningful. They've whisked the eggs that you are going to eat for breakfast. So they feel like they are contributing to their family, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
Without buying anything, you can do so much to create an environment that aids your child to develop to their full potential. And the beautiful thing about Montessori is, like I said earlier, there's lots of education theories that started off with a philosopher or a doctor or a theorist who had their own idea about childhood, and then they created that into a theory, and that was, so-and-so's theory of child development. Okay? It started with their own ideas. But the beautiful thing about Montessori is she didn't start with her own ideas.
And
the
then?
Montessori theory doesn't come from Montessori. And she tells us that in the book. It doesn't come from Montessori. It comes from the child. She started with observing the child. So in effect, it is the child who taught her how humans develop and how humans naturally develop and progress. She observed the child, and the child, in her own words, revealed himself to her.
That's how she learned to put everything together.
Yes, and she wrote that all down. And she was a scientist. And because she was a scientist, she applied science to it. So she would observe something in one situation, and then she'd create that situation again and see, does it happen again? You know, she would then create it again. Does it happen here? Did it happen in India? Did it happen in Italy? Did it happen in England? Did it happen here? Did it happen here? Oh my God, this is a universal child. So the Montessori method is an inward out method. It's a method that comes from the child. That's why even at one point Montessori says, don't call this the Montessori method, call this the method of the child, which I think someone's put in the comments. Yeah, it's the method of the child, right? So that's really different from other education theories, or let's say the mainstream curriculum or whatever it is, because there is this notion in mainstream that you have to make the child learn. You have to put pressure, or you have to sometimes force, or you have to be in charge, or you have to have power to make the child good, to make the child succeed, to make the child learn. You know, somewhere along history, right, this idea has been put into all of our minds. I don't know where, but somewhere along history, this idea has been put into our minds. And so many of us, you know, we are programmed to believe that, and instinctively we go that way. But what Montessori has shown us is that the child doesn't need coaxing to learn. They don't need a sticker or a chocolate bar or an ice cream, or they don't need a punishment. They don't need you to motivate them. They are more motivated than us. True. They, you know, in the last slide we spoke about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? This child, that baby that wants to master climbing the stairs, there is nothing that can break his motivation to go up and down the stairs. We will put a barrier, right? We will put stair gates. Is it can you still hear me?
I can hear you clearly, but your video is lagging.
Oh dear.
I can hear you clearly. Okay. Your video is lag. You can go on because
we can put stair gates, we can put a door there, we can lock the child in another area. You know, we can do everything that we want to do to prevent that child from going up the stairs. But the moment they have a chance, they will go for it. And before you can even catch them, they will be halfway up the stairs. Right?
Yes.
That is the motivation of the child, the natural motivation of the child to learn everything. And they have that motivation from birth. It's always there. Think about that toddler who is so eager to do things, and they will pick up really heavy buckets or really heavy bags, and they will move them and transport them. And, you know, you look and you think, it's like the size of you and you're lifting it. Where does that motivation come from? That is the natural motivation that all children have. And that's what Montessori observed. Children don't need, you know, all this praise and all this rewards to learn. So if you think that the Montessori method is coming from this angle that the child, the human being, is naturally dispositioned to learn, and they all have a love for learning, that's the natural disposition of the human being. So what Montessori is telling us is follow the child.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah? Allow the child to learn according to the laws of nature. Trust the child. Trust that this child is going to learn everything. Believe in the child, you know, and allow him to go through his stages of his development at his own time, in his own pace, in his own way. Follow him.
Okay,
Right?
but it doesn't happen in most children, especially ones that doesn't have the opportunity to be Montessori educated, you see, like me and my siblings and my friends. And so from our last live that we did together, I had a conversation with my sister, and we come to a conclusion that we obviously don't have our own intrinsic motivation, just like
But
what
for
you
some
said.
things you do,
Yeah, for
Jihan. For
some
you,
area.
for some things you do. Those things that you love, like your watercolor painting, you are so intrinsically motivated.
For
Right.
that, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody has something that they're intrinsically motivated about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is with the child, they're not going to want to learn everything according to your schedule or according
Mm-hmm.
to your way or according to your
True.
timetable. It's according to their timetable. It's according to their schedule. But what
This
we
is what
need
we
to do,
follow.
yeah, what we need to do is we need to trust that that time will come. We
Oh,
need to trust that that time is going to come where they will learn that, where they will have an interest in that. That time will come as long as we have created the healthy environment that has everything that the child needs according to their stage of development, according to their characteristics of the stage that they're in, according to their needs and interests. As long as they have that environment, they will master that aspect of their development, right?
I
So
see.
it's really important then that we have knowledge of the different stages of the child's development. It's important we understand the characteristics in the child in each stage and what they're trying to achieve, what the task is of that stage, what they're developing in that stage, right? I shared another reel, which I was talking about the first plane child is seeking intellectual sorry, that was the kitten again, so it disturbed me. Sorry. The first plane child is seeking physical independence, and then the
Yeah.
second plane child is seeking intellectual independence, and the third plane adolescence is seeking social and economic independence, right? So in each stage there's a task that there's doing, there's something that this individual is doing. We need to support that, right?
Okay.
We need to be aware of what is going on. What is the purpose of that plane, that stage of their life? What's the purpose of it? What are they trying to achieve? And this isn't something fancy that Montessori put together. No, this is through observation of children. This is universal. Every single child during the first plane of development, they are creating language, right?
Yeah,
Every
true.
single child during the first plane of development, they are working towards independence, right?
Yeah.
Right? Every single child. Every single child, when they come to the elementary stage, they suddenly have an interest in facts. I'm not talking about academics. I'm talking about facts, right?
Okay.
So many, like, Iman will say, oh, this animal, right? Right. Yeah. They suddenly have this interest, right? This is natural, is universal, and I see it even more now than I've experienced it when I was living in England, because now I'm in Malaysia. I'm in a
Uh-huh.
completely different culture with
Okay.
children who are raised with completely different parenting styles and, different environment, but yet they're the same. They're the same children as before, you know?
Okay.
So this knowledge that Montessori gave us through her observations, through the child showing her, that knowledge helps us to understand what is going to happen in each stage of development and how we can facilitate and support and guide that, right? So if you have that knowledge, you can create an environment that is going to support that. You can firstly be prepared as an adult. Then you can create the environment, and then you can remove obstacles that will prevent the child from doing that. Obstacles like what? If you
Okay.
know that this child from 0 to 6 years is developing their movement, right? And that is the task that this child is trying to master during this period. It means we don't want to restrict their movement. So
Oh.
you don't want to strap this child into a chair all day long. You don't want to strap a child who can walk into a pushchair or a buggy, preventing them from walking. You might have to do it sometimes, that's fine, but you don't want it to be the habit. You want to create an environment that allows the child to move as much as possible. You know, strapping them in a chair would be an obstacle, right?
Putting a playpen, also an obstacle, isn't it?
Putting a playpen would be an obstacle. You know, not allowing the child to engage in things in the home, like, even like, through the child cutting things or spooning things in the kitchen with you, they're developing their movement. If you don't give that opportunity, then that's a missed opportunity, right?
Oh.
So you want to remove the obstacles, and but how are you going to know what's an obstacle? Is you have to have knowledge.
Because according to what you listed just now, we are the obstacle. The parents are the obstacles. Because sometimes we worry too much.
Often the first obstacle to the child is the adult, whether it's the parent or the teacher. And don't feel bad. That's for all of us. Even those of us who are trained Montessori teachers, we can still be the biggest obstacle. Because sometimes, we have so much knowledge that we, in a way, impose it, Montessori talks about the adult being spiritually prepared. You have to work on yourself spiritually. So no matter how much knowledge you have, if you're not doing that spiritual work, you're not going to be able to facilitate for the child and create that environment that is going to allow them to reach their full potential. So it's there are many levels of work that you need to do to be able to support the child. You need to prepare yourself spiritually by getting rid of your prejudice.
Oh, that's the biggest one.
Getting rid of your false beliefs about the child. Getting rid of all that baggage that you hold and you carry with you, whether it's cultural baggage or experiential baggage. Maybe the way that you were parented was so different that maybe sometimes you try to force that on your child, right?
Yeah.
Without even realizing. You have to get rid of your prejudice. You have to get rid of your judgments. You have to get rid of your beliefs that you've already created, and you have to come clean. Montessori tells us in one of the quotes is that we have to get rid of our deep-rooted defects.
Wow, that is so strong. I'm offended.
That impede us in our work with the child. So you have to prepare yourself spiritually. And the thing is like, yes, we need to prepare ourselves spiritually to be with the child. But actually, when you prepare yourself spiritually to be with the child, you are actually preparing yourself spiritually to live your life. We benefit from that spiritual preparation that needs to take place so that we can support the child. We benefit as well. Everyone.
But how?
How do we get
rid of? How do I get rid of my deep-rooted defects, Nusaiba?
You have to study yourself. Study what it is that you hold within you, and why do you hold that? And is it correct, or is it something that you need to change? Is it something that's beneficial for life? There's so much work that we need to do on ourselves. It's a never-ending journey to spiritually prepare ourselves. And we need to be in contact with those people who have spiritually cleaned themselves, right?
And learn from it.
And learn from them. Right. There are so many, like people that we can, especially now with social media, there are so many examples of people that we can contact with or listen to that can help us spiritually restructure the way that we think or the way that we believe, or restructure it. So anyway, one level is spiritual preparation. Then you have to physically prepare yourself
Physically.
as well. So she talks about the physical preparation. And, you know, when you're with the child, you want to give the best of yourself to the child, right? One of the beautiful things about in a Montessori classroom is you want to come well dressed. You want to be presentable, right? You want to look after your body, look after yourself. It doesn't mean that you need to be like, you know, put on loads of makeup before you come to school or anything like that. But you want to be the best version. Yeah, the best version of yourself. You know, if you were to if you were to do an interview and you had applicants come to you and you had somebody who's like really sloppy and kind of hasn't, you can tell, and then you've got somebody who's really presentable. I mean, who are you going to take more seriously?
Obviously, the presentable one.
We should present ourselves to the children in the best way. Montessori always says, give the best to the child. We should present ourselves in the best way to the child. Right? And then, you know, and physically, you know, physically, we need to prepare ourselves intellectually by having that knowledge, which we spoke about the different stages of development.
Yeah.
So we need to prepare ourselves intellectually, know about the different stages of development, know about the absorbent mind, know about the sensitive periods, know about what the elementary child is trying to do, know about what the adolescent stage is all about, so that you are intellectually ready and prepared. Okay? And then, you know, your work with the child is going to come from being informed through observing the child. Observe the child so that you can give them what they need. And every single child is going to be a unique individual, right? So Montessori gives us a framework of the stages of development, and she gives us this kind of structure. But within that framework, each person is an individual, and the only way you're going to know how to meet that person's need is through observing them. And it's through observing that individual that you can follow them. Because you observe them and you begin to see what they need. You begin to see, you know, where they're struggling or where they're excelling or where they focus or where they concentrate or what they repeat or what, you know, you see all of these beautiful things manifest in front of you. And then you can create that environment that supports them. And you can create that environment without Montessori materials. I'm going to say it again and again and again because so many people, you know, want to buy materials. You can buy a few materials. It's not harmful, but it's not the main point. That you can have every single Montessori material in the world, but if you don't observe the child and you don't have an understanding of the Montessori philosophy and you don't understand the stages of development, then it's not Montessori. Even if you have every material in the world, it's not Montessori. Whereas you can have nothing. You can be in a mud hut or some wooden kampong house in the middle of the Malaysian jungle with nothing. And you can be doing Montessori. You can be Montessori. Because it's about how you observe and approach the child and how you follow the child and how you facilitate for that learning to take place.
Wow.
And how you get out the way, so that they can be who they're supposed to be rather than who you're trying to make them be.
Very un-Asian parenting.
I know that you say Asian parenting, but I think it's universal. You know, there is this universal idea of parents wanting their children to be a certain way, especially historically, you know, It's not just, I haven't just seen it in Asia. I've seen it when I was living in England as well. You know?
Okay.
Sometimes we have to question, why do we want our children to be a certain way? What is it that we're trying to achieve? When we push our child or try to force our child to become who we want them to be, actually, you know, what is that that's going on? Sometimes it's your own self.
our past frustration of non-achieved goal, yeah, passed down to our children, isn't it?
And maybe it's not, maybe it's because you were always made to feel like you were not good enough. So then you always feel like, I want my child to be the best. I want my child to be the best. I want them to be like this and like this and like this. And you create this picture. And then you continue that cycle of making them feel like they're not good enough because they can't live up to your expectation. And then they have their own children and they continue that cycle. But you know what? We can stop that cycle.
Starting with us.
Yeah. And when Montessori talks about spiritual preparation, you need to be in contact with yourself. You need to fall in love with yourself as well. Fall in love with yourself and with your life, and you know, get rid of those negative thoughts you have about yourself, and get rid of all of that. Clear that all out. You know, someone mentioned get rid of anger, get rid of pride. Montessori talks about that, to rid yourself of pride and rid yourself of anger and rid yourself of all of that frustration that you have. If you are somebody who is frustrated about your life, who are you going to most likely snap with?
The kids.
Yeah, your spouse and your kids, right? But maybe you're not frustrated at them, right?
But we lash it on them.
Yeah. So you know, and the cycle goes on and on, generation through generation through generation. Sometimes you have to fall in love with that child in you. You as a child. You know, sometimes you need to give that appreciation to the child that you were.
Wow, this is huge.
In those moments where you were shamed, or where you were blamed, or where you were made to feel like you were not good enough, sometimes you have to make peace with those moments. Don't cry, yeah?
I won't. Look, I'm using filter. No cry filter, okay?
Oh, I should put one on then. Sometimes you have to, and I'm saying this because this is what I have had to do. I mean, I don't say this often, but I have had a terrible childhood.
Wow, Nusai, but it doesn't resemble at you at all. I can't tell.
I have had a terrible childhood. I won't go into details, but I have had a terrible childhood. And I had to make a decision when I had my child. I had to make a decision. Do I want to continue this vicious cycle? Or do I want to be a different person with him? Do I want to create a different life for him? And it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress.
Are you telling me that you haven't rid of your, what do you call that, rooted defects yet? You haven't rid of it yet?
I still have plenty of defects that I need to rid of myself of. It's a work in progress.
In progress.
Yeah.
If you're a work in progress, then I'm about to work just about a minute after we, finish the live.
No, it's and the more we work on ourselves, the more we realize that there's more to do, right? The more you work on yourself, the more you realize more about yourself. But the beautiful thing about it is the child puts us in this situation that we are forced to work on ourselves. What a blessing is that. You give birth to the teacher who teaches you to become a better version of yourself.
Wow, that is well said, Nusaiba. Because often people said you look at your child and it resembles you. Now you have to deal with you again. You're dealing with the small version of you.
Yeah, my son is my biggest teacher. He's my biggest teacher. He's taught me the most about myself. And he has been the one that has made me change. Whatever I've had in me that I needed to change, he's the one who's made me change. I don't think I would have been who I am today if I didn't have him.
Wow.
So these children that we have, and even as a teacher, even if it's not as a parent, as a teacher, I really believe that each and every single child that God puts in your classroom, he puts that child there because there is something for you to learn from him or her.
Ooh, goosebumps.
And if that child frustrates you, and if that child makes you like angry or, you know, emotional, then that's because they are reflecting something in you that you need to work on. That's the truth. You know, that's why when we observe Montessori classrooms, if the adult has worked on themselves and if they have this really positive, calm energy, the classroom will always be positive and calm, no matter what children you have, no matter whether they have ADHD or whether they have autism or whether they have any other special needs. If the adult is spiritually prepared and calm and trusts the child, that energy will go through. Whereas if the adult has issues, that issue is going to show in your classroom. So one of the things that I used to really reflect on, especially in the early days when I was a teacher in the classroom, especially the 3 to 6 classroom, if I was having a bad day where the class was really unsettled and the children were, you know, like all over the place, you know, maybe in the moment I would get caught up in it, but then I would try to take that time to sit back and remind myself, they are reflecting me. Work on yourself and they will change. They will automatically show you something different when you work on yourself. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect, because nobody is perfect. This is a work in progress. And we're so lucky because the child doesn't hold it against you.
Because of the unconditional love, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't hold it against you. They're always there to love you and support you and you know, forgive you.
That's what breaks my heart even more.
So how lucky are we? How lucky are we?
Oh.
You know, we give birth to this teacher who teaches us about ourselves so that we can improve and become the best version of ourselves, and they love us unconditionally. So we don't want to abuse that love. And we don't want to abuse that, you know, the child that mirrors us. We don't want to abuse that. We want to be able to take each moment to work on ourselves so that we can support the child. Work on ourselves so that we can become the best version of ourselves. Oh. You know, Montessori says that the child is the future of humanity. They're the future. You know? Oh, I'm so sorry if I've made people cry. There's loads of tears in there.
Yes, I'm avoiding eye contact with you right now.
I don't think I'll be crying live, but you know, if you say the right words, they might just pour out.
Then let's do it.
Well,
I can feel for everyone who's watching because of the regret that us mom have, especially when we have like the baggage that you just said just now, and then we accidentally burst maybe to our spouse or children. It's easily to burst at children, you know, to snap just because of maybe just a spilled milk, you know, things like that. And obviously we're regretting it because of the memory that they're having of us and the love that unconditionally given. And they're forgiving.
But, you know, you have to, you know, have that regret, but see it in the positive light that this is an opportunity for you to change, right? And that just because you're doing that, it doesn't mean that us Montessori teachers don't make the same mistake. We fall into those traps as well. We do that as well. We are not perfect by any means. But imagine when we snap and we are trained.
Yes.
Then you feel a lot more regrets. But, you know, usually if you worked on yourself, if you've trained, if you've developed that part of you, you begin to have that resistance. So that I think the thing is that one thing that I developed over the years is that ability that when you're in the classroom, when you're working with children, instead of reacting immediately, taking a few seconds to actually
Pause.
see what is going on and what is the right thing to do in this situation. And if you can develop that as a parent, it's a lot easier to do it in the classroom with other people's children. And then when it comes to your own child, it can sometimes be harder, right? But, you know, developing that ability to pause for a few seconds, to really try to understand what is going on. Sometimes in that pause, the situation will be sorted out anyway. So like, let's say, for example, your child spills milk and you're just about to go, oh, I told you. But then actually your child spills milk, you pause, they might go and run to go get the cloth themselves.
Oh, it breaks my heart.
But if you reacted immediately, they may never have had the chance to go and get that cloth because you reacted and you prevented them.
And make them cry.
Yeah, and then made them feel bad about spilling the milk when actually it's innocent. What is
It's
so
an honest
bad?
mistake. Yeah, it's an
What
honest
is
mistake.
so bad about spilling milk?
It's actually the baggage, isn't it? It wasn't about the child at all. It's about
It's
us
not about the
probably-
milk because you
It's
can
not
get
about the
more
milk.
milk.
Yes.
And it's not about the child,
Obviously no.
right?
Okay, one quick question. Is asking for forgiveness is good enough? Say we accidentally get angry at them or accidentally, you know, do things like that, or some might have, you know, be physical, hitting or something like that. Is it enough by apologizing? Would it erase and take away everything that happened to the child for his growth?
That's a really difficult question because will it erase everything? I mean,
Would it take away the pain? Would it undo the things that done?
I don't think
it-
that what happened to me as a child could be taken away if people apologized. I don't think it could be taken away.
Now
right?
we're gonna really have a conversation about what happened to you. What actually happened to you? This is new.
But you know, I think that when someone comes to you with sincerity and regret, whether you apologize or not, when somebody comes to you with regret and sincerity, the child can feel that and they accept that, right?
Because of the unconditional love.
Because of the purity in the child is so pure, right? And the child doesn't hold us accountable for every mistake we made, but when we come to them with that sincere apology in ourselves, whether you use words or not, because some parents, they can't say, I'm sorry, I did this and that. Some parents, they apologize in different ways, right? So, you know, that is healing.
Oh.
And children they are very adaptable and they can change. You will see if you change your way with the child, you will see the impact straight away. And if you have an autistic child, you will see every single thing you do multiplied by 100, whether it's positive or negative, right? But you will see when you start to change your approach, sometimes you changing your approach to the child is the best way of apologizing to them.
Ah, changing approach. I see a lot of very educated people on our watching in the audience. They have given a lot of input actually. I'm not sure if I'm able to read one by one. But I did screen grab most of it. You guys are very supportive and you guys are these people are a very good reader or they are your students. They've taken your courses.
I don't recognize all the names. I recognize some of them. I don't recognize all the names, but
this is not real name. These are Instagram names.
Yeah. But I can see a few of our parents from Montessori and a few teachers. So I think the thing is that, you know, like the child is on their journey of growing and developing and becoming the best person that they can be. And they're going to face some obstacles on their way. There's no perfect childhood or perfect life that we can give the child. But even those difficulties that they face, they're part of their growth.
Part of the growth.
From the challenge that they face, they can become a better person.
Okay, so 1 second.
Yeah.
Quick breastfeeding break. Okay, so number 1, just now we got work on our spiritual. Number 2, prepare our physical. Do you have any number 3?
Yeah, intellectual.
Oh, our intellectual.
Yes, by gaining knowledge, learning about life, learning about human development, learning about all of that. Even part of your own development is to I always try to choose teachers who have keen interests, keen hobbies and keen interests, because the fact that they love learning something and they love doing something, that is going to that's going to be absorbed by the child. So as a parent, have a hobby, have something that you love to do. Be excited about learning something, about achieving something, about doing something, because your child is going to see that. And they are going to also, they are naturally excited about learning, but when they see you do it as well, it's like you're doing this together, And I think I just want to say that, like, don't feel bad about the mistakes that you have made with your child. Sometimes I look at myself and I think, all these mistakes that I have made, it's not, in the end, it's not really my fault unless I did it intentionally. It's because this is what was internalized in me through my childhood or through my upraising or through whatever it was, or through the teachers that I had,
High five.
So we need to step out of that. So don't beat yourself up about that. Just look forward about how you can change and you can improve yourself to become a better version of yourself. Don't come out from this feeling guilty, but come out from this feeling energized that you can be who you really want to be, a better person, a better mother, a better teacher.
I'm holding back my tears, Nusaiba.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't think there's any like virtual tissues that I can send you, but
but in soon they will be monetizing Instagram as much as TikTok did, so you are able to send me as small as 3 ringgit 90 cents for a tissue, for a flower, for a heart shape, for a box of gift virtually. Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Funny thing. Oh. So there goes number 3, work on our intellectual.
If you work on yourself and you prepare yourself, then you can prepare your environment, then you can observe the child, then you can follow the child, and you can give the child what they need. And each child is going to be different. Even if you have twins that are born in the same time they were in your womb, and they're born on the same day and they've been raised in the same conditions, even those twins will be individuals and unique, right? So you'll be able to meet them, each unique child, where they're at, and then you can follow the child. And then again, we said that follow the child is balanced. So it doesn't mean let the child do whatever they want to do, but it means that you observe what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve and what they're trying to what they're working on. You observe it, and then you create the environment that gives them the healthy, positive way to do it.
Is that what you mean? Freedom within limit.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Limit being, if I got it correctly, limits being preventing them or protecting them from harm. Just that, isn't it?
Usually when we talk about limits, there are three different aspects of the limits that we talk about. So one is that something is respectful and loving for ourselves, you know, respectful and loving for the environment, and respectful and loving for other people around us. So that's the limits. If something is harmful for yourself, then it's you don't have freedom to do that. If something is harmful for the environment, then you don't have freedom to do that. If something is harming somebody else, then you also don't have that freedom.
Okay, these three aspects: respectful and loving towards environment and people and all around us.
And those are really the three very simple rules that we need to have, whether we're in a home environment or we're in a classroom environment or wherever we are. You know, even as adults, those are the considerations that we should have.
That's just clear. That is very clear. Oh, I'm so lucky to know you, Nusaibah. I get to skip lots of books, you see?
I am not somebody who reads a lot. I've said this before on my Instagram. I am not somebody who reads a lot. I very, very, very rarely read a book from cover to cover. I'm the dip in, dip out person. So I will dip in a book, I'll dip out a book, I'll dip in a chapter, I'll dip out a chapter. You know, that you don't have to feel guilty if you're not a reader. Some people are not created to be avid readers, you know? There are plenty of other ways you can gain knowledge. There are plenty of other ways that you can begin to understand the child. Because some people will take Montessori's books and then they'll start to read the absorbent mind and then they can't understand what's being said on the paper, you know?
That's me. That's me.
And then they will get frustrated and then they'll start blaming themselves and saying, look, I'm not good enough because I can't understand this book. And then they will start feeling frustrated and then they will feel like I can't do this Montessori because I don't get what she's saying, or I'm not a good enough mum, or I'm not, whatever it is. And that's a negative cycle that we don't want to get into. But actually the truth is that some people are perfectly knowledgeable, but they don't read books from cover to cover. Or maybe it's a different kind of book that you need to read. You know, just like some people, you can't watch every movie, right? Some movies you're just like, oh no, this is boring, I can't watch it. But it might be really interesting to somebody else, right?
True.
So everyone has their taste or their style or their way that they can be the most effective. And you need to learn about yourself. How do you learn most effectively? How can you change yourself most effectively? What is your technique? What is your way? So yeah, don't feel bad if you can't read the books.
And my way is doing live with Madam Nusaibah. How about you guys in the audience? Share down there in the comment section. Okay, we actually have some quite a question here. I think I saw someone asking about introducing recitation or memorization of the Quranic surahs. Yeah, there it is. Ambia Rahman was asking, when do we introduce recitation of or memorization of Quranic surahs?
I believe that we need to recognize that the child from birth has an absorbent mind. Even that newborn child who's not able to communicate with you yet and show you what they've taken in, they have an absorbent mind. So if you are playing the Quran in their environment from birth, they are soaking that in. They are taking that in 24/7. So first start off with having Quran as part of your environment. And that's not just Quran being played from YouTube or being played from, we don't use cassettes anymore, but, wherever it is that we play the Quran. It's also you reading Quran. You reading Quran and you falling in love with the Quran and you studying the Quran and you engaging with the Quran. That's the first thing. You model it first for the child. I don't know if any of you have watched the live that we did about helping the child to grow into a lifelong reader, to have a
Oh,
love
do you have that?
for reading. Yeah, there was one live that I did about that, and we were saying that one of the most important things is you have to read in front of your child. You have to read to them, and you have to also read yourself in front of your child. So it's the same thing when it comes to the Quran. You need to be reciting Quran. You need to be in love with the Quran if you want your child to have that love. There's no point in thinking, oh, I need to help my child to memorize Quran. Oh, they're 3 years old now, they should know some surahs. Or they're 5 years, they should have memorized this many surahs. There's no point in thinking like that if you yourself are not actively in love with the Quran and memorizing the Quran yourself.
So we mirror what we want the child to be.
If you think it's so important for the child to memorize Quran, then you should be memorizing Quran as well.
Wow.
So you create that environment where Quran is being played around the child, it's being read around the child, it's being memorized around the child. You create that environment, and naturally the child will show you when is the right time that they will start to memorize the Quran.
Oh. I can't imagine anyone else saying put it the way you did, because you know all teachers, normal teachers would be like, you start now, you know, they should know this, they are able to know this by and memorize all 3 surahs in, you know, like 8 years old. That's normal.
And I know that there's some people who are watching who are not Muslim, and we're talking about the Quran, which is for Muslims, but that could apply to whatever it is in your life that is important for you, for your child to memorize or be exposed to. Have that, fall in love with that thing and do it in your environment so that your child absorbs it and sees you doing that, right? And then they will naturally want to do that. And sometimes you will have a 2-year-old who's not able to speak fluently yet, but they are able to recite Quran not because somebody has forced them, not because somebody has trained them, but because it's been there from birth, because their parents are actively reciting and in love with the Quran. And one thing that I do want to bring up is that you have to be really, really sensitive to your energy when you are reading Quran and when you are praying. Because sometimes parents, when they pray or they read Quran, they want to focus, they don't want to be disturbed, they don't want to be interrupted. And sometimes they are negative, or they're not welcoming when their child comes to disturb them, right? When you're trying to read Quran and your child comes to you 55 times asking you the same question, or whatever, and then we're like, just leave me alone, I'm trying to, that is going to give the child a negative experience attached to that thing. So then how are they going to love it? So make sure that you are approaching it from the angle of love, not force, love. And make sure that you are when you are engaging in these things, make sure it's sincere from you. And the child will absorb that. And then the child at some point, and it's different for different children, but at some point, children will show you a keenness in learning to memorize Quran. And when they start to show you that keenness, that's when you can, begin to recite more and more with them to aid them in their memorization.
That is what we call the sensitive period, isn't it?
Yeah. So when it arises that you see that keen interest and you see the child wanting to repeat it over and over and over again, then okay, now's the moment. And you facilitate and you support that.
Nice. Okay, there's another question that I really like. Do we have time? Are you okay if we still continue? Okay, because I have the same problem as Carol Wong 93. Her question is, how does the imbalance of parenting affects the child? I try to follow the Montessori way, but our extended family who babysits our child uses the traditional parenting way. Me and my husband, just like this.
I think this is a struggle that so many people have. The way I raised my son was nothing like the way that people in my family raised their children, or you know, a lot of people thought what I was doing was crazy. You know,
Okay.
so a lot of us, we face this, you know, we're doing something which is so natural, yet it's so abnormal to the majority of people. It's natural, but it's not the norm. And so, yes, we're going to face those situations. Sometimes in the same household, it'll be, you know, the other parent. Do you need to?
No, okay. I'm just need a breastfeeding break. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry.
So it's okay. So sometimes, you know, maybe it's extended family, maybe it's immediate family, maybe it's not that, maybe it's the school that our child goes to because we have no opportunity to send them somewhere else. Maybe it's the society around us. The thing is, it's don't see it all as negative. Know that you, as the parent, you have the biggest influence on your child, right? You are your child's first teacher, and the environment that you create at home and the experience you give your child in the first 3 years of your life, that's the most crucial, right? What the experience you give your child in the first 3 years of life when they're at home with you is going to have the biggest influence on who they are. So know that your work at home, your work as a parent, as a mother, is key work. It's going to have the biggest influence on your child. And then when they are exposed to different ways or different methods outside of what you have created for them, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to destroy what you do. Sometimes actually your child being exposed to different methods and different things, sometimes it builds resilience. You know, sometimes it gives your child another experience that will bring something else out in them, right? But try your best, of course, as much as possible, try your best to speak to those people who are close to you, those people who are around you, and to share with them your belief and your methodology and your the way that you are with your child. But you can't expect everyone to change and follow that.
Yeah.
You can't expect that. You know? So I knew that, like with my son, I knew that if he was with my family, it's going to be completely different. I knew that. So the way that I was lucky in a way that I could limit it. And, you know, I'm in Malaysia, so I totally...
That's what I was going to say. That's why you ran away from UK. Now I know.
Well, you know, and then when you, like, let's say, for example, you don't want your child to be exposed to certain things, and you're going to go visit your family, and you know that in that family house when they're playing with their cousins, they're going to be exposed to that thing, and you don't want that to happen. You know, you can get around that sometimes by you being the one that's leading the activities or creating the environment, or sometimes having the cousins come over to your house rather than you going to their house. Or
that's actually
you
a good idea.
You know, like I've spoken about this in quite a few of the lives. With my son, I didn't give him screen time until he was a lot older. And, you know, when we went to cousins' houses or we went to family houses, there are TVs and there are screens and there's Disney being played. And I didn't want him to be exposed to all that. So one of the ways is either to invite the cousins over to your house, or when you're going to their house, take activities and things that they can do, craft activities, or, you know, let's all bake together, or let's all do this. So give them a positive thing that they can do. And often when you go to someone else's house and you have these activities that you've put together, right? And I'm not talking about Montessori activities here. I'm talking about just, you know, crafts or whatever it is. Sometimes those children that you're visiting are so appreciative that
Brilliant.
they're so appreciative that they really engage with excitement in those activities that you create. They totally forget about the screen, right?
That's actually brilliant.
Whatever it is, someone said that I didn't run away.
Yeah, she said you didn't run away. You ran away to, and she's more benefit to UK Montessori enthusiasts.
I made an informed decision to come to this lovely country, and
Very well put, inform.
it's been 5 years and I love it. And I think that living in England for so long and then coming to Malaysia, I felt like I wasted so much of my life there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so much credit for Malaysia.
Yeah, I think that Malaysia deserves a lot of credit. And when I came out to Malaysia, I thought that I was coming to a country that would be, let me say, less organized or less, I can't think of the right appropriate word to use here. But when I came here, I was really pleasantly surprised. There are so many things in Malaysia that are much more organized and enjoyable than in England. So
Thank you.
I'm the only thing I miss is my chocolate. That one, I don't think Malaysia can replace it. So,
come on. You tempered your own chocolate.
Yeah, well, I can't get all the ingredients here that I used to get there. So my baking and my chocolate has had to take a back seat while I'm here, but it's worth it.
Yes, good for your health. I say that.
It is healthy chocolate and healthy baking. So.
Okay, my bad. I take it back.
But anyway, I think that if you have a spouse who doesn't believe in Montessori, you know, sometimes it takes time to share with them and to let them see the beauty. I have heard so many stories of husbands or wives who are enthusiastic about Montessori, and they cry to me that their spouse doesn't like Montessori, doesn't do it the Montessori way, doesn't this, doesn't that, doesn't respect their child. And I say to them, you know, keep going and have patience and do the best that you can and be positive. Don't fight with your partner spouse. You know, don't fight with them for it. You know, show them the beauty of it, not the claw of it. Right? And then sometimes those spouses become more enthusiastic than the first one. You know, sometimes when the husband gets on board with Montessori, they do it better than we do.
Wow.
You know? My husband will point me out and say, Naseba, that's not very Montessori.
Wow.
I'll be like, don't say that word to me.
Inshallah, pray for me.
Have hope and do your best, and eventually the fruit of your work will blossom. It will ripen.
Ameen.
The fruit of your work with the child will ripen. You know, people thought I was crazy with how I was raising my son.
Even in the UK?
Yes, even in the UK. They thought I was crazy. They thought the fact that I follow him means he's going to become a spoilt brat. They thought the fact that he's able to follow his interests means that he's never going to be able to do things that he doesn't want to do. And now we have a 17-year-old who's not yet finished his development, but I can say that I am happy and proud with who he's becoming. And every day I'm seeing more and more the gifts that Montessori has given him. I'm seeing the fruit of all of that effort and work, of working on myself, of creating that environment. I'm seeing it more and more every day. So eventually it will show you. The work you do will show, and people around you will realize, hang on a minute, you know.
The kitten again.
No. I'm saying the people around you will realize, and they'll say, hang on a minute.
Okay.
You did a good job.
Oh, did that happen already with you?
Yeah. Like my mum said to me maybe like a few months ago, I'm really proud with how you raised your son.
This is so sweet.
And I looked at her and I just thought, really? I'm so glad I didn't follow what you asked me to do. You know? And the more you try to work on yourself and improve yourself, and people see that you change as an individual, then they will start to change as well. And they see the fruits in your child as they grow and develop, and they see the benefit. Then those same people will begin to see, actually, this is a good way. And then they will start to transform as well. And then there'll be more of us. And then hopefully we will take over the world and everybody will be thinking in the same way. Well,
Taking
maybe
over the
Malaysia.
world.
Let's do
Let's
Malaysia
take
first.
let's take over Seremban. Take over Seremban first.
You're not from Seremban, darling.
I moved there.
Eventually there'll be enough of us. Like right now, when I first joined Instagram, there weren't many Malaysian accounts talking about doing real life, practical life or whatever at home. There wasn't many people doing it, but there's so many people doing that now. Right.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
You know,
It's an influence.
Yeah, sometimes, like positive, discipline or not using praise and not, using punishments. When I first came onto Instagram, I didn't see anything from the Malaysian people coming out about that. I mean, I didn't see it. But now I'm seeing so many people, and they're not Montessori
supporting
teachers.
the idea. Yeah.
And they're not Montessori teachers, and they're not necessarily very knowledgeable Montessori parents, but they have made changes in their home environments and their children are flourishing. And some of those people are on here today and they can say, yes, I've done it and it's working. And even if it's just one part, even if you're just taking the praise and punishment part, okay, I'm not going to use praise, I'm not going to use punishment. Even if you just take one part and you focus on that and you do it well and you see, we're all making a change. And that's what Maria Montessori wanted. She wanted this global change where we recognize the child for who they truly are and the capability of the child and what they can bring to the future when they become the man that they're supposed to come, who has reached their full potential. So I definitely think in Malaysia, there's already been a lot of changes over these years. I mean, what is it, 4 years that I've been...
Close to 5.
Yeah, I've been in Malaysia for 5, but 4 years, I think I've been more active on Instagram for 4 years, I think it is. And there's like so many mothers who are using the Montessori philosophy for their parenting now. And one of the proofs of it is that the new Montessori baby book, that book, so many parents have that book now and they're using that book and they're reading that book and they're applying the knowledge that they gain from that book with their children. So those children who grow up with, how many hundreds of families is that? And those little ones, as they grow up, they're going to be different. And they're going to make us change even more. I don't know. I think we've gone off track, but,
But everyone's enjoying it, even me. Okay. Going back to what does it mean to follow the child? So we have number 1, prepare and work on our spiritual. And then number 2, physical preparation from the adult or the caregiver. And then number 3 is the intellectual, work on our intellectual.
Yeah, so you prepare yourself and then
that's it.
You can begin to observe the child and you can begin to create the environment that is suitable for the child so that they can accomplish everything that they are working towards.
So the last one would be the environment.
It's kind of like happens together. You observe and you prepare the environment and then you observe again, and then you make changes to the environment, and then you observe again, and then you realize you need to change yourself, so you spiritually prepare yourself more, and then you observe again, and observation is key work. And a lot of people have asked me to share more about observation, so I will share more about observation, inshallah. Hopefully with time I will share a lot more about observation, because observation is the key work that you do as a parent or a teacher. It's the key work that you do.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much. Every time, even though we see each other almost every single day at school before lockdown, it was never the same. Even back then when I was just bumping into you, you still share all this knowledge, even in bits and pieces, even in just one sentence. But now that I have you on live for almost 1.5 hours, imagine the knowledge that I have now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. And, I think it's lovely to go live with you. I think everyone agrees that you ask the questions that I don't know where it leads me to, but it leads us to interesting conversations.
You know why? Because I am not Montessori educated, so I see it from my point of view, not from the book, with almost zero knowledge. You can see that. You can see that. So yeah, a lot of people say please do more. Oh, thank you so much everyone for watching and supporting. I'm sorry if
Thank
I
you.
haven't get the opportunity to read everything, but I did screen grab some of your beautiful insights because lots and lots of people in here are very knowledgeable. So
yeah, it's actually really lovely if you can post your summaries and your questions, and if you can post them again in the comments. I find it really nice because when I watch a live, when I rewatch a live on IGTV, if those things are there, like on Facebook, you can see it, right? It saves.
Yeah, but sadly
and
we can't.
it's really nice to read through it. So if you have posted something, if you've added something wonderful to this, if you know, I've seen there's some amazing Montessorians who came on. I don't know if you noticed, and they added on more. If you add it in the comment section, once this is saved on the IGTV, it can really be amazing for everyone to be able to go through that and read it again and again.
Yeah, 3 people did share some titles, and yeah, some titles of books that we can refer to about facing our anger and healing. I did screen grab that, and I might put it in the caption later. Thank you so much, everyone. So you can also suggest what topic we should do later. I mean, next week, if Nusaiba is available, I'll drag her here again, inshallah.
Next week, I might not be because next week we're running a training session on Tuesday, which you have to join. So, because you're an elementary parent. So,
okay, I will.
So, and it's open for other people. So do check out on my Instagram because I posted it. But we are running a session, and then I've got, maybe we can't do it live next week, but we can try, inshallah, for soon after that.
So all we have to do is just, if anyone watching interested in joining the curriculum, they just have to click on your profile and find the link, isn't it?
For the course, yeah. If you're, it's for elementary specific. So that's what that training's about. And don't worry, I have other things planned for the end of this year. If people pray for me to be more healthy, I'll be able to do more.
Okay, we have almost we have more than 60 people actually just now, and I want everyone to help pray for Nusaiba's health. We need her for longer times, okay?
Inshallah. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining.
Okay.
And thank you, Jiha, for inviting me.
Thank you, Nusaiba. So hard. I feel so grateful because I was worried that you were unwell like last time, but alhamdulillah. Seems well.
Thank you.
You will do this again when she is free. I can't promise next week. Okay, probably the next week. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much.
Good night, Nusaiba.